Today is Monday, November 9th, 2020, and today I'm just continuing a thought that I had yesterday about this verse, John chapter 9, verse 39. And Jesus said, "For judgment I am come into this world, that they which see not might see, and that they which see might be made blind." And this chapter, John chapter 9, Jesus heals somebody who was born blind. That's kind of interesting. He spits on the ground and makes a clay, puts it on the man's eyes, and tells him to go wash at a certain place, and his blindness is cured. And even today, modern medicine, there's a lot of people that are born blind that nothing that modern medicine has to offer can heal these people. But Jesus healed somebody who was born blind. And of course, I think that today there's a spiritual aspect of people that were spiritually blind being woken up by Jesus. But I want to talk about this second part, and that they which see might be made blind. Because, like I said in my other video, I think that we're surrounded by a bunch of people who, this whole life, they've been able to see. You might call it like a sixth sense, but really they just had an understanding. They were illuminated into these secrets, and they're so dumb and infantile at the end of the day. Oh, people watch people's hands because people speak with their hands, with hand signs, mudras, orange 33. And that's really all it takes to have somebody live their whole life with these other understandings. And in my last video, I talked about how they have certain symbols, the all-seeing eye, of course, and they love watches because they think of themselves as those who can see, those who are watching what's going on, who actually understand what's happening. And so I think that's who's being referenced here. And I just want to give a little bit more context. So I gave the beginning context. The beginning of John chapter 9 is talking about Jesus actually healing somebody who was born blind. But then if we keep reading, "And some of the Pharisees which were with him heard these words, and said unto him, Are we blind also? Jesus said unto them, If ye were blind, ye should have no sin. But now ye say, We see. Therefore your sin remaineth." So yeah, these are the people that they say that they see now. And I'm not talking about people who have just recently been awakened who are like, "Oh, now I see." It's like these people have always been prideful in that they can see, that they are the watchers. I see them throw seeing-eyed hand signs that it just looks like an eye, and I think that they're trying to say that they can see, that they're watching. And I think that these are the people that Jesus is referring to. And I just think it's interesting that the next chapter is a related idea, because of this is just another thing that I just get this sensation a lot of, oh man, I'm surrounded by these types of people. "Verily, verily, I say unto you, he that entereth not by the door into the sheepfold, but climbeth up some other way, the same is a thief and a robber." These people, I think a lot of them do think of themselves as being pious or believing in God. And I think that they believe that they're even on a higher level because they've been able to see this stuff their whole life. If you know that flat Earth is real and that the ball Earth is a deception, you just have a closer connection with God. But these people are phonies. It doesn't work. Like, you can't be in on those secrets and get a higher connection with God if you're not exposing it. And so what these people do is they go along with it. And I just think of all the pastors out there that they know about the Orange 33 stuff, but they preach NASA things. It's like people that are trying to sneak their way in by having higher knowledge, which it just makes them feel like I don't know. I can't rationalize it, because that's the instant that I learned about these truths, I just had to share it with everybody. So people who already knew these truths, but they weren't shouting it from the rooftops, it's going to be some crazy, I don't know, it's not going to be good for those people who knew these truths, but they went along with the lie. The Bible talks multiple times about the punishment is worse for people who know the truth but choose evil anyways. And I mean, it just kind of goes into this idea. Jesus said unto them, If ye were blind, ye should have no sin, but now ye say, We see. It just reminds me of how in my life, a lot of my sins are things that if I knew what I knew now, there's like no way that I would have ever done those things, which it doesn't make me feel better really, but it does mean that it wasn't as much our fault had we known the truth. And it's just, you're surrounded by people that know the truth, but they still do all these things. And so it's going to be worse for those people. And I think it just connects with this next. Chapter 10 begins with that kind of same idea. People that are trying to sneak into heaven in some unfair way. They're not trying to sneak into heaven through the truth. They think that their higher knowledge, their hidden knowledge, and their strange Kabbalistic logic, maybe they really do think that they're going to heaven because they twisted a bunch of rules. And while I wasn't actually lying to people, just if you know what I'm talking about with that, there's this Kabbalistic logic where they can just straight up deceive people, but they'll say something like, so just for instance, they joke about the truth. And even though they know that people are going to interpret it as a joke, they think that that gives them some sort of karmic release. Well, I was telling the truth. Well, most people thought that you were joking. Anyways, I'll just keep today's video short. It reminds me of, there's this demented children's book, Itsy the Clever Spider, and it's about this spider. Itsy the spider was very clever and very wise, but he wanted to be cleverer and wiser still. And he goes around and gets all the knowledge and stuffs it in this jar to try to hoard all the knowledge. And then he ends up dropping the jar and it breaks open and spreads everywhere. And then the book is like, so there's a little bit of knowledge for everyone. And I think that's one of those statements that you can take it both ways. There's a little bit of knowledge for everyone, as in everyone has a very little amount of knowledge because people have gathered it all up. And I don't know, that's just what I thought of when I read this children's book, and I was like, this is such a demented children's book, but I think it's a big allegory for, there's a bunch of people that have gathered up all the knowledge and hidden it from other people. And I think that's who's being referenced in things like this. People that are trying to sneak into heaven by gathering up all the knowledge, all the flat earth knowledge, and then selling people a fantasy. And just think of how much of this experience being here, how much of it is like just from the media, for example, trying to get people to go to hell. It's like we're being attacked at every corner and surrounded by these people. And one of the big ways that they do it is they've gathered up all the knowledge for themselves and fed everybody a fantasy and try to lead them to hell. But it just backfires. These evil people, they dig their own pits and they fall in it. And we know who Jesus is. Jesus' sheep are going to know who he is. To him the porter openeth. Well, so who's this talking about? But he that entereth in by the door, Jesus Christ is the door, is the shepherd of the sheep. To him the porter openeth, and the sheep hear his voice, and he calleth his own sheep by name, and leadeth them out. And when he putteth forth his own sheep, he goeth before them, and the sheep follow him, for they know his voice. And a stranger will they not follow, but will flee from him, for they know not the voice of strangers. And so no matter what these evil people do, if you're a follower of Jesus, you'll know, and you'll be led out of this evil place. God bless everyone.